All right, so for this class, you need to make sure that you've watched the notes section before this. What you're going to end up doing is we are going to do a mentor text for inference practice. So it's right up here. You're going to click on inference practice. It will pop up and show you what this is. If you have a printer, that would actually be more ideal in the sense that you could actually physically hold it and look at it that way. If not, though, you kind of have your 4 different texts that you're going to eventually look at. You're really actually going to look at these bottom 3 more so than the first one. But we're going to go ahead and look at the limit. That's the one I'm going to focus on for this video. So you're going to want to focus on this one specifically. So I'm going to show you on my screen here what we're going to end up doing with it. And then along with this too, you want to make sure that you have the assignment open. So the assignment that I'm talking about is the one here is assigned to me. You're going to go to Only If Told, Reflection, and Work 2.6 to 2.10. You're going to open this up, and you're going to click on it. And it looks like this. So just know, like, when I'm writing stuff down, you can actually type it in the brainstorming section and the response section. This is what you're going to have open. You'll just go to the next thing that's open for you. So, like, I know Mrs. Othout, she also has you doing some of these as well. So if you already did 1 with her or 2 with her, just go to the next open one. That's fine. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to do mine on a piece of paper, so you'll see that here in a second. And then we'll go that way. Sorry, my throat. It's like, excuse me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. And then we'll go through it together in the sense of what that will look like for writing your response on that document I just showed you. All right, so we're going to read the limit. So I'm going to read this to you. We're going to do a first draft read. A first draft read is just to understand what we're reading. This did come from a book called The Limit. This is in the middle of the page, so I'm going to read it just as is. I just want you to understand the text first, okay? So it says, rose and fell in quick succession. Turn this thing off and don't open it until both Lauren and I come home. I slammed the laptop closed and hurled it across the room. It smashed against a wall and fell to the floor. Matt, Mom's voice burst out in surprise and shock. I snatched up one of Dad's heavy dress shoes off the floor by the bed, stood up, and chucked it at the computer with a roaring scream. The shoe hit the wall and left a black mark on the cream wallpaper. Maybe the mate would hit the computer. Stop it! Mom stood next to me, her hands tugging my arm. She wasn't strong enough to hold me back, and the second shoe went even farther off target, smashing into an assortment of perfume bottles on a small vanity table. The mix of strong, flowery, and spicy aromas stung my nose. I searched the floor for another pair of shoes, even though I knew that breaking stuff was stupid. My parents would just run out and buy a new laptop and restock the perfume bottles. Go ahead, Mom and Dad. Rack up the account. Don't worry about the limit. You've got one more kid to sell off. Abby's soft whimpers finally got through to me. I dropped the shoe I'd grabbed from the closet and turned to her. She huddled in a tight ball behind a couple of pillows on the bed, the tips of her fingers in her mouth. It's okay, Abby, I said. I'm sorry. Okay. So what you're going to end up doing for me, shouldn't have that open. Okay. But you're going to look at this really quickly, and we're going to look at, so this is what you're going to be filling in. So again, if you've already done some with Mrs. Othout, just go to the next one that's open. Okay. On my screen, what you're going to see is I have this. Looks very similar to what you have on the computer. It's just this is the paper version. Okay. All right. So the first question that we are going to answer, and so again, you're going to find the one that you're going to work on. The question is going to be this: how is Matt feeling? That's the first question you're going to answer. Okay. And along going with this is like the notes that you've taken for Radu. That's going to be really important because we're answering an inference question. So in the brainstorm section, we're going to have Radu written down like this. Okay. The R stands for restate, which we will restate when we actually start this, so we're not going to worry about that one. Answer. We're going to answer this question. So based on what we just read, we need to infer, well, how is Matt feeling? Okay, so When I asked this question to the kids in the classes I had today, they were right off the bat said that he was mad, he was angry, he was frustrated, livid, one person said. So there's lots of things you could do this, but it all goes together in the sense of they all kind of see they're synonyms of each other. Okay. So I'm just going to choose angry. If you have another word that you're like, no, I think frustrated is better, use the word frustrated. That's fine. Okay. So we're going to have A, that's the answer for angry. And then we're going to look at two details from the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these top two paragraphs, and I'm going to read through this again. Okay. So it says, turn this thing off and don't open it until Lauren and I come home. I slammed the laptop closed and hurled it across the room. It smashed against a wall and fell to the floor. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to find different details that really stick out to me that kind of tell me, okay, that means he's mad. He's angry. Okay. Matt, Mom's voice burst out in surprise and shock. I snatched up one of Dad's heavy dress shoes off the floor by the bed, stood up, and chucked it at the computer with a roaring scream. The shoe hit the wall and left a black mark on the cream wallpaper. Maybe the mate would hit the computer. Okay, so this part right here, again, this shows me that he is mad. He's angry. Okay, and just from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the things I've underlined, and I'm going to circle a word that really stands out to me in the sense of that he's mad. Because again, I want to get these things from the detail. I want to make sure that I am supporting the fact that he's angry. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to circle the word slammed. I'll circle the word hurled, smashed, chucked it, roaring scream. So all those are very heavily connotated, and so that tells me that he is angry. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at those, and I'm going to pick two that I think are really stand out to me. So I'm going to do slammed and roaring scream. So I'm going to put a star next to those. Okay? If you don't have access to a printer to be able to print this, what you can do is instead you can write those on a separate sheet of paper. So instead of underlining stuff, you would actually write it on a separate sheet of paper. So you would write slam the laptop closed, hurled across the room, and then you could pick two that way. Okay, so you can have that on a separate sheet. Okay, so then from there, I'm going to go back to this in the sense of answering that brainstorming for that question. So the first detail, and I'm just going to put a couple words that are going to get me back to that detail. So I'm going to write the word slammed, and then I'm also going to write the word scream. So that reminds me to go back to those specific details from the text that are going to help me. Okay, and then down here, the usually when, this is going to be that slam plus scream, and I'm going to say equals angry. Because again, that's just going to remind me as to what I'm going to do for my response. Okay? All right, so at this point, I need to keep this readily and available because I am going to have to put the specific details in the text to support my inference. But I'm going to go ahead and do the response section, just like we did, just to kind of piece it all together. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just use this to the side to kind of help me. So Radu. So it says, how is Matt feeling? So I'm going to restate first. Matt is feeling, and yes, you are typing all the things that I'm writing right now. Matt is feeling angry. Okay, so now I can go here. I have restated and I've answered. In just 4 words, I have restated and answered. Okay, then after I do that, I'm going to go to what the text states. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. The text states. And I'm going to go back to the actual text. So I have one that says slammed. So I'm going to go back into the text, and I'm going to get that specific detail. Slam the laptop closed. That's what I'm going to write. Slammed the laptop closed. Okay. And I'm going to get, that's my first detail. I did that one. Then it says scream, so I'm going to look to see where that is in the text. Okay, let's go. I'll probably go ahead and just put that whole thing in it. Checked it at the computer with a roaring scream. Okay? So again, I'm going to make sure that I'm using what is in the text specifically. So I'm looking at it. Chucked it at the computer with a roaring scream. Okay, so that's my second detail I've done. So far, that's what I have. Matt is feeling angry. The text states slammed the laptop closed and chucked it at the computer with a roaring scream. All right, so then I have my usually when statement. So what this has to do is I have to combine that experience with the evidence that I found. So I'm going to start with usually when. Okay, so I'm going to say usually when someone. Okay, now this part, I'm going to kind of go back to the words that I chose to put over here for my details, because those are the words that really stuck out to me that tells me that Matt is angry. Okay, so I'm going to use those words to kind of help me. So I'm going to say usually when someone is slamming things down while, I'll say, screaming loudly, it means they are angry. Okay, so then that's my usually when statement. Again, I kind of went in through it and I use those words. I use slammed, I use scream. I have them ending in ing instead. But then I kind of just expand on it a little bit. And then this fact of screaming loudly, things are slamming things down. So I kind of try to picture that in my head too, because if someone is taking something and they're slamming it while they're screaming loudly, like I can visualize that. And that ties back to my inference that they're angry. So again, I kind of want to sandwich my inference in the sense of, hey, Matt's angry. Here's how I know that he's angry. So it all ties back together. Okay? So that's like my first thing I'm going to do there. And then I'm going to go ahead and get you set up for the next one. And then I want you to try to do that on your own in the sense of filling out the whole brainstorm and response. I'll kind of start a little bit here and there. But the next one, again, if you're not on number 2, whatever it is, just go to the next open spot on your online document. Again, what you're doing is you're just transferring what I'm doing in the sense of on your screen. This one right here, the digital version. Okay, so you're going to go down to the next one now. And your next question is going to be, how is Abby feeling? Okay, and we're going to use the same text. So the same text, because down at the very bottom, it's not very much, but down at the very bottom, this talks about Abby. And we're going to see if you can do this particular portion. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. Again, if you were able to print it, you can underline it, you can annotate it that way. If you were not, you can use a separate sheet of paper and write those specific details on that piece of paper. Okay? All right, so it says, Abby's soft whimpers finally got through to me. I dropped the shoe I'd grabbed from the closet and turned to her. She huddled in a tight ball behind a couple of the pillows on her bed, the tips of her fingers in her mouth. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second, and I want you to go ahead and underline or write down what those specific details from the text in the sense of how do you think she's feeling? I guess we forgot to do that first. Sorry. Don't pause yet. Over here, I want you to put your Radu. Okay. Restate again. We'll do that when we actually answer the question. But I want you to answer this question. How is Abby feeling? So based on what I just got done reading again to you, how is she feeling? So we need to think about that first. You may need to think about in the sense of what happened before this, because again, we already know that Matt is like super angry. So based on that, this is what Abby's doing after she has realized what has happened with Matt. So then what do you think Abby is feeling? Okay. All right. So when I talked through this with my class, some people said sad, which I can see that. But based on what is happening up here, she is sad, but she's also another word. And most of the classes came up with something like scared, that kind of thing. Okay, so you're going to put your answer down here. So you can put scared. And then you're going to do the exact same steps that we ended up doing up here with Matt. So kind of look back at that response. But I want you to go back to the text, and I want you to find those details. Okay, so you're going to underline them. Same thing we did before. Circle those words that were really important to have that detail support your inference, your answer, and you're going to do those things. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and kind of try this out in the sense of the fact that you have the answer written down. If you have something different besides scared, like nervous or worried, that's fine too. But I want you to find those details, and then I want you to kind of connect back to the same thing we did up here. Slam plus scream is equal to angry. So blank plus blank is equal to scared or worried, whatever it is for you. Okay, so then what you're going to do after you end up doing that is you're going to write your response. So then at the very end, your response for how Abby is feeling should look very similar to how Matt is feeling. It's just going to have a different backing up because they don't feel the same thing. Okay, so again, your response for how Abby is feeling, brainstorming and the response section, should look very similar to what it was up here for Matt. So all of these things should be filled in. Your response should be filled in. You should be able to check off that you did each individual thing in your response. So make sure you do that. Okay. Once you are done with that, you're going to email me to let me know that you are done, and then I can check it. Otherwise, I'll probably just count it as missing. So make sure you email me. And then when you get back to school, we'll probably print this for you and we'll put it in your notebooks. And we'll also get you a copy of this mentor text if you're unable to print it. Okay? So you really just went through this, brainstorm for both of them. Then you had the response for both of them. And then you're going to email me that you have both of them completed. And that's all I need from you.